to ensure that people are protected and best informed, and just putting one foot after the other.
Yeah.
It's really that complicated and that simple, because there are those days in business where you think, I don't know what I'm going to do.
So joining me on the line today, I've got Carol Grimshaw from Grimshaw Legal. Welcome to the call, Carol.
David, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here today.
It's a pleasure. Maybe tell us a bit about Grimshaw Legal and what you guys actually do.
Grimshaw Legal started in April 2018 from scratch.
Yeah.
After being in practice for about 7 years in one way or another, and in the legal services industry for about 25 years. I spent a lot of time in dispute resolution, and I decided that the best way to avoid a dispute is for clients to be informed. So I like my small business clients to be very well informed so they can better manage their risks and make good decisions. And as an aside, if they're doing that, they'll get to generally reduce their legal fees over time, because let's face it, legal disputes are incredibly expensive things and best avoided.
Absolutely. So tell me a bit about, what your play on the marketplace is right now, because obviously there's a lot of changes occurring and there's a lot of, let's call them loose laws and policies that the government's shifting and changing like quicksand. What do you see as the challenges that a business owner is facing right now?
The difficulty at the moment is that there's as you say, a lot of policies that are being discussed, but and that gets some traction in the community and it raises some alarm. But the challenge really is that it's not yet in legislation. It's not law. For example, the discussion around making Australian insolvency and bankruptcy laws more like the American style Chapter 11, that's not anywhere in a bill that I've seen. So that did cause a lot of discussion and a lot of concern, and it got a lot of media traction, but nothing's happened with it yet. So
Right.
it's a bit of a stay tuned. It makes it hard for business owners to make decisions.
Yep.
So the best thing to do really in that situation is talk to, an advisor who's in touch with what's really happening.
Yeah, fair enough. So what do you think the priorities are for people in business right now? What should they be focused on?
Well, as always, it's important to understand your bottom line. Have a look at your cash flows and make good decisions. Be informed about making decisions. Company directors, company officers, they need to make sure that they know what's happening in their business, and they're legally required to take advice when it's beyond their general scope. And everyday business owners might find that onerous, and I understand that, because advisors don't come cheaply. The problem is that if you don't get the advice and you reach beyond your scope, you can find yourself personally liable in the end.
So you mentioned something prior to today's call, which is about liability for insolvency and how the laws are sort of moving. Do you want to maybe shed some light on that topic?
Definitely, David. Thank you. That's just another one of the areas where legislation has been brought in and policy announcements were made. And it ties in nicely with what an owner should do about, where their focus should be, which is on cash flow, particularly coming out of COVID. The announcements in March about safe haven from insolvency and bankruptcy provisions that was to be available until the 31st of December is actually, it's got a catch-22 to it. You've got to make sure that if you've been trading insolvent during this time as a company, that you take advice and that you appoint an external administrator or another insolvency practitioner to be able to guide you through. And these people absolutely must be appointed by the 31st of December 2020. Can't stress that strongly enough. Otherwise, you've been trading insolvent and you're not protected.
Right. So basically what you're saying is if you're insolvent and you're running under the radar right now, that's fine until December 31st. At that point in time, you actually need to have appointed an insolvency practitioner to actually navigate the next part of the story, yeah?
In short, yes. I wouldn't say you're okay running under the radar. Get advice, get it quickly. But make sure that you understand your position before the 31st of December. I imagine people will take holidays, for example, even after being locked in and shut down for a while. They still might like to get out, particularly in Melbourne.
Yeah.
But beyond that, at a federal level, it's important to understand what insolvency is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few tests, which I won't bog you down with today,
No.
but we need to make sure that the tests are properly applied, because you may or may not be insolvent and you need an accountant and a lawyer to tell you.
Right. So really the red flag is if you've been struggling through this whole COVID trading time, there's some alarm bells that need to be addressed. And you might have gotten away with it in the turmoil, but as things close off, it could end up pretty messy.
It absolutely could. And in terms of messy,
Yeah.
I'll just quickly mention that it's going to be either civil or criminal penalties. It can be that serious that it can be criminal penalties if there's dishonesty. And otherwise, it might impact your ability to be a company director or officer ever again. So besides the back and forth with creditors and having to deal with courts and liquidators and the like, there's some quite serious problems that you could avoid if you take the right steps now.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Great.
Terrifying. Sounds nearly as dangerous as COVID, doesn't it?
Well, it's not going to kill you straight away. COVID works apparently within 14 days. This one could take 9 months, so just depends upon whether you're able to, get the advice in at the right time and take the right steps. And if you can't, the best thing to do is still speak to your accountant. You might be able to find a way to have the right conversations if needed. You might be able to restructure. That's a really smart thing to do if it's possible and necessary.
Yeah.
At least keep to save face, which is important in business.
So just to lighten the mood, Carol, tell me what you've learned personally out of this whole COVID experience. What have been your personal lessons?
Well, I think that it's been a matter of trying not to scare the life out of people, which apparently I haven't done quite successfully, but to ensure that people are protected and best informed, and just putting one foot after the other.
Yeah.
It's really that complicated and that simple, because there are those days in business where you think, I don't know what I'm going to do. You throw your hands up. As a business owner, I look at my debtors and I wonder, because I should be stricter with my clients and their payments, but COVID's happened and it's a reality. So I've been quite generous. It's just about putting one foot after the other, and you will get there. Next year's going to be an absolute stunner, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You can already see the economy starting to sort of spin its wheels. It's moving so quickly.
Absolutely.
People are out there booking. I noticed the bookings at hotels went through the roof last night after the announcement. But
I might be guilty, David. I might have already made a booking for next week.
I think a few people have.
Absolutely. Daylesford, can I tell you that Daylesford is probably not a place to try to get to right now? It might be packed out already.
I think it is.
I had trouble getting services, so it's going to be good.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a bigger picture. Best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
In everything. And it wasn't necessarily business advice. It was from my mentor, who's regrettably passed in the last 12 months, but he was a barrister that I worked for some time. And when I was still a student, and after a 13-hour day where it was a 20-minute lunch break that included me dashing out to get the food and coming back for him and me, and inhaling the food and getting straight back to work, he's, I was sitting down at the end of the day and I said, I've got so much homework to do, because I was, studying my law degree while I was working for him. And he said, just read, just keep going, just do one more thing and you'll be fine. You'll get there.
Brilliant. Very good. Let me ask you one last question, Carol.
Sure.
The number one piece of advice you'd be giving to someone in business right now?
Get advice. Make sure that your advisor understands your business and your needs as well as you. And perhaps, not just about your business. I think it should be about your entire family situation, so that you're covered for the next 12 months, and make it a habit. Get a legal and a financial health check once every 12 months. It's as important as seeing the doctor on an annual basis, just to make sure everything's ticking over nicely.
Yeah.
And then there's no surprises. Well, you hope there's no surprises.
Yeah.
But at least you're better able to deal with it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Great.
All right, Carol. Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
David, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be with Outcomes.